A perfect example of how our collaboration is going is the fact that we are jointly supervising a graduate student, Louk Vanderschuren, who works in both our labs, so who studies behavior with us and who studies synaptic function in Corette's lab. So she is kind of the perfect example of how a collaboration like this can be fruitful.
The collaboration with Louk is for me very nice because I can really put my work on the synaptic level in a context of what does it mean for the behavior of the animal. So you see that some synapses have been changed. Now how is that correlated with changes in the behavior of the animal? And this is really I could not do this by myself, and I really benefit here from the collaboration.
What I think is really special about the collaboration between Corette and myself is that even though our expertise and knowledge is very different, it's different levels of neuroscience that we work in, is that the way we approach science is quite similar. Is that we approach science from on a hypothesis, question-driven basis. There's a question that we want to answer, and then we think of an experiment with which we can answer that question, and then use that knowledge to investigate things further, rather than doing an experiment and then seeing what happens. That can be hypothesis generating, which can be a quite fruitful way of approaching things. But we do things the other way around. We like to think of a question and a hypothesis first, and then design an experiment to either support or refute the hypothesis.
I know that usually the first two can be different from the rest.
We learn a lot from each other, I think. For me, when I started working with Louk, I didn't know much about rodent behavior, and now I have the feeling, yes, I know a little bit. And so with Louk, we have a very open discussion about behavioral studies, about synaptic studies, and this. I think both of our research benefits from this collaboration.
Okay. Good luck.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, for me specifically, the benefit would be that I really are able now to place the results of my research in a bigger context. Really to understand what changes at the synaptic level, does that mean for changes in the behavioral level.
I think in order to make an interdisciplinary collaboration work, it has to be based on the mutual interest, mutual curiousness, and respect. So you really have to be interested in what the other person is doing and what the other person can contribute. And as for the collaboration between Corette and myself, what I really like about it, and the way I think I benefit of it as a scientist, is that I learn how another scientific discipline works, both from a practical point of view, to learn about the practicalities of doing a neurophysiology experiment, something that I would otherwise never really think of, but also on a scientific basis, I learn to think about brain function in a very different way by including these detailed synaptic levels that Corette studies in my own research.
Yeah, so what I like about Dynamics of Youth is really the broad collaboration and the broad discussion with people from very different fields of research. So I myself am really a neurobiologist. I come from that part of the spectrum, but within Dynamics of Youth we discuss with psychologists, with even people who study language, sociologists, and I think that's really to understand the brain and to understand how the brain develops and how children develop. You should really see it in a bigger context. You cannot just pick one aspect and focus on that. So that to me is really the big benefit of Dynamics of Youth.
The power of Dynamics of Youth is that it studies youth and all its questions and complexities on every level that you can think of. We like to state that we investigate youth from synapse to society and everything in between. And what I found over the last few years is that within dynamics of youth, there are a lot of common interests from people who work at, for example, social scientists, humanities, science, up to veterinary medicine, where I work myself. And something such as play. I've come across people who are interested in play from a social point of view, also even from a sports-wise a point of view, up to a synaptic point of view. And this gives everybody involved the opportunity to enrich their own work and enrich their own thinking with knowledge from other disciplines.